Hello and welcome to the Perth Gaming Cruise Show. It is the Olympic season and we are psyched to some extent to talk about our most memorable sports games of all time. Get in on the spirit. I hope you are well out there, people of Perth and Beyond. Today we have a special returning guest from 2023. Ed, welcome back to the show. How you doing, brother?
Oh, so glad to be back, John. It's been too long.
Too long. Sorry, we'll bring you back next time quicker. Johnny,
fine.
hey.
I'm just glad to be here.
How are you doing, Johnny? It sounds like Ed's got a beef to pick.
Yeah, look, we were a bit slow off the mark.
A little bit competitive.
We're a bit slow off the mark to get our guests back on this year. Very great to have Ed back on the show. Loved the spotlight on the Mass Effect series that you guys did last year. And I can't get enough of telling people to go check that out. So after you watch this one, go check that out.
Love it. Great shout out, Johnny. Yeah, so Ed is like a massive fan of Mass Effect, and Pat and I did like a special on Mass Effect last year, as Johnny mentioned. If you're keen on that series, we want to hear our thoughts, who we dated in that game, and if we hit the dance floor, then the answers are only available in that episode. But that is not what we're here to talk about today. Here it is all about the sports. So we're going to cover some of our most memorable sports games throughout a number of console generations and the ages, PC included. We've got a list of about 9 or 10 to cover. But before we go on, going to get the lads' views on how do we feel about sports games in general? Because it's one of those genres that's a bit like, oh, God, sports games. Golf. I'm going to throw to you, Ed. How do you feel about sports games in general? Do you have every golf game under the sun in your house?
No, I must say I'm not particularly big sports games fan. I think, and the games that I pick that are sports related today are, you wouldn't find them in the Olympics.
Yeah,
I'd love to see them in the Olympics. I love to see them in the Olympics. I think everyone would have a great amount of time, but I think there would be a lot of death involved. But that's part of maybe that's part of what I like about it. Not enough death in sports. I think it's too soft.
You don't think high jump would do the trick for gamers out there, like playing a high jump game?
I think parts is that's like one of my racing games that involves like deliberate destruction of your opponents and yourself sometimes. And golf specifically. Well, I used to what was it called? Wii Sports, was it called?
Yeah. Might even mention that today, actually.
Standard sports game there, and I loved playing that when I was in university in Japan. That's where I got my Wii. I was in Japan. I got a couple games, including one of the games we're going to be talking about today. And I think it's just, sports is about competition, right? Or playing with others as much as video games are. And just that aspect of it is what I enjoy. I played a couple times, soccer games or whatever, just by myself. It's just not the same thing. But at least you're playing with someone else. That's where 80% of the fun is for me with sports games. Yeah. Unlike
totally
other games where I'm happy to enjoy by myself, but sport ones I only ever play with others. Yeah.
Yeah, they're multiplayer experiences. How about you, Johnny? How do you feel about sports games in general?
I have a big soft spot for sports games, and look, I know I had to twist your arm a bit, John, to do a special on sports games. But
I had you on one arm do the sports games, and then Ed on the other arm getting on the show again. It's all good.
And look, I hope, like me, when you're both up at the crack of dawn, downing your 6 raw eggs and getting ready to climb the PGC steps, Rocky style, because we're going to take the listeners from Perth and Beyond through some bangers today.
Absolutely, and let's get straight into it. So, with our guest Ed, we thought we'd just start with you. This is a huge kind of Nintendo-based franchise. This is footage of Mario Strikers on the GameCube. But I want to hear from both of you because both of you were keen to have this on your list. Ed, tell us about what game, I think it was the Wii version that you had played and what this game meant to you and your memories of it.
I think because they're all very similarly called games. I think mine on the Wii was called Mario Strikers Charge, but I could be wrong about that. And it's, as you can see, it's kind of it's the Mario Kart version of football.
Yeah.
That's how I would easily describe this game. It's like, there's a ball and there's players and they kick it around. There's a goal you need to kick into, and then that ends the similarities with the game. It's a very arcadey kind of game, and it's best played with another player, and you each control 3 players on the field, and then the goalie as well. And you can other than just like kicking and passing the ball, each type of player, so Mario, Luigi, all the Koopas, they all have different abilities, different special abilities, and different strengths as well. So you have standard ones where like some can run faster and pass faster and shoot better, but they all have like special abilities. So some of them can shoot shells, some of them can freeze players around them. Mario has a super ability where he can like draw, like as if he's eating a mushroom, and grow to a giant size and stomp all over his opponents.
Classic
and stuff
Mario.
like that. And then what's it called? I think it's the charge. So when you pass it between players, pass it between your own players, or steal a charge ball from the opponent, the ball is charged and starts glowing. There's like white, yellow light, and that allows you to have like a special ability to shoot at the goalie, and then get like 5-6 shots off if you time the little mini game correctly. And then you take control of the goalie, and you try to like this. Basically, just switches that screen, and then on the Wii, you're using the Wiimote to try to grab the balls before they hit the net behind you. And it's just lots of fun. It's just lots of crazy fun. You can, shove players off depending on the type of map it is. So you can shove players off the side of the map. You can like shove them into the electric fences and stun them. Sometimes you have like the rock things that fall from the ceiling.
Just like the World Cup. I've got them there too.
I don't know why they don't do this in the Olympics or FIFA, right? It's like, I would watch a heck of a lot more of it.
I would watch it.
Right? Or tennis or any other sport, just add electricity to the fence. What's the worst that could go wrong, right?
Simple solution.
Or Bowser coming into the middle of the
island.
Get your Bowser coming into the middle of the field occasionally just to cause a bit of havoc.
It's just a lot of fun. I think if you just like arcade games, you like Mario Kart, it's just great. It's just crazy fun. Yeah.
And on the Wii, what was your memory of playing it on the Wii in particular? Was that just like playing that in Japan with mates, or was it just like a big game out in Japan at that time? Or
I don't know if it was a big game out in Japan at the time, but it was just like I was just like in the store, just looking for like games to play with people because I was living in a dorm at the time. And so like, all right, got Wii Sports, and I got a couple of games, and this one's like, oh, this looks interesting. So
this looks realistic.
This one. Yeah. I think I had one of my friends recommended it to me. So, all right, I can give it a go. I just we played it a lot.
Yeah, nice.
And I got really good at it.
Very cool.
To the annoyance of of my friend who recommended it. I was like, I got better at him. I was like,
that's like what you do.
Cheese. Yeah, it's just like in any other like this sort of game where you have all these powers. If you know how to play it correctly, you could just cheese certain strategies, and
that's why we love these games. And that's kind of like what you do as a kid. Like you go over to your mate's house with a game, and you're like, oh, I want to show you this game, and you're going to kick their ass at it. And you're just like, oh, I'm really good at it. That's a classic setup. Johnny, you had Mario Strikers, the GameCube version on your list. Have you?
Yeah.
Tell us why. Tell us why.
So I picked up a GameCube quite like towards the tail end of its generation, and I remember getting Mario Strikers just because it was like super heavily discounted because it was already kind of the end of the GameCube era. But I sunk a lot of hours into Mario Strikers. I was going to ask Ed do you have even in like the Wii version, do you have a favorite character that you tended to play with, or select a particular kind of team?
I just can't remember which one it was, but I think it was one of the Koopas where its ability was you lift off the ground and use a hammer, kind of like somersault, and smash anyone underneath you.
That's cool.
So you're like just moving slowly across the screen because like your speed is slow, but anytime like someone tries to try to steal the ball off you, just like, whoop.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I've got a soft spot for the Striker series. I haven't managed to get around to the latest entry, which is on the Switch, just because so many games on the Switch to get to. But I have been meaning to check it out, having enjoyed the GameCube entry quite a lot.
Awesome. And why, did you try the Wii one? Are there any difference between the Wii one or the GameCube one? Because I think they all look kind of much the same. And when the Switch one came out, I'm keen to dive in, but I'm curious if there's any differences besides the graphical overhaul.
I don't know that there's a great difference. I think they just kind of iterate on each entry, so there's not. They kind of the formula has stayed pretty consistent right through, from what I can tell. So yeah, I don't know.
Correct me on this, Johnny, but I think I heard that with the Wii version, you could select each member of your team, whereas the GameCube one was like preset. Was that right?
Yeah, kind of preset. So you select your main, your captain, and then you have a choice of selecting. You get a crew of Toads or a crew of Koopa Troopers, or a crew of. I don't know if you can't remember if you could get. No, you probably couldn't get the Shy Guys, but I think you could get the Koopas or the Toads. Whereas I think by the Wii and later entries, there's a bit more like picking a team.
You customize
kind of thing.
Your whole team, like each individual one, which one you want them to have on the field.
Yeah, so that's the innovation on the original entry, I guess. Yeah.
Nice. No, that's cool. And look, for people of Perth and Beyond, if if that game appeals to you, there is a demo on the Nintendo Switch you can always try before you buy. Looks like a really good time. One to check out. Next pick is Johnny's pick, and I have to say, it's the king of all sports games. It really is. There's no arguing. There's no denying. This is the greatest of all time. Sorry, Johnny, go ahead, because I just...
love it.
We have to talk about it.
So there were basketball games before NBA Jam, but really, to be honest, like NBA Jam was the game that really brought the personality into basketball games. I regularly spent all my pocket money in the early 90s popping dollar coins and probably $2 coins into arcade machines to try to bring some NBA glory to the New York Knicks. I don't know why I rusted on to the Knicks. I think I had an auntie at the time had gone to America and brought me back a New York Knicks baseball cap. And so I was just, NBA Jam tragic, trying to get those hoops. And just, genre defining game. I think this was influential on all later NBA games. It has to be called out. I probably should have done what other people in the arcade were doing and going for like picking the Bulls, the Chicago Bulls or something, because that was right.
The
right
stats
in
are ridiculous, weren't they?
The stats, they were OP, and it was quite in the heyday of the Bulls. But no, I've got a lot of fond memories from my time in the arcade playing NBA Jam. And, yeah.
Absolutely. No, like this is one of my favorite all-time games, like sports games by far, still very playable today. Like you mentioned, it's like an arcadey fun version of basketball, and it's got its little things that like really matter. You'll never forget, like picking the Bulls because you want someone with the ability to dunk. Like I remember when I first played this, I picked a team, picked a couple of guys who just had no dunk skills, and I was just like so disappointed. I was doing like this minor tiny dunks. I was like, what is going on? You have to go pick Alonzo Mourning. You have to go pick what's his name? Charles Barkley, if you want to dunk big. I love that you could just push the other players and like throw them around. That was part of the game, just pushing as much as you can. But you got to save your stamina meter for the big dunks as well. So this game came to Genesis. It came to the SNES. It was on the arcades. I think this was also like a really good value for money arcade game because a lot of arcade games are notoriously really hard. But as you would know, Johnny, when you come to the arcades, you could play a full game with your $1 or $2 coin, have a lot of fun, and it wouldn't be overly ridiculously hard to the point of frustrating. So it's just like, to me, this is, even as not a massive basketball fan, this is a complete package game. Like it was just everywhere when it came out, kind of like games like Mortal Kombat and Mario Kart. They were just synonymous with gaming in general. Absolutely huge. Ed, did you get into the NBA Jam games at all? Or
I got into NBA 98. That was on the PC.
Yeah.
And I played it, again, like with all these games with someone else, in this case, my sister. So I don't know if there are any games like this anymore, but back in the day, you used to be able to have a bunch of these multiplayer games on the PC, and you could play split screen. And if it was like directional kind of thing, so like one person would be using the up, down, left, right keys on one side, the other person would do WSAD keys on the other side. It would just be controlling two players at the same time on the same keyboard. And it was a lot. I remember it being lots of fun anyway. you just be going off against each other and just trying to go for that 3-point shot, and it was just lots of fun.
Was that game like a realistic simulation type basketball? I'm playing like some
I
NBA
think
Live 95
compared
here.
to Jam, it is a bit more, but I think basically they're both just still very arcadey games, I think.
Yeah.
Not being a basketball player myself, but
Yeah.
I remember though, like wanting, because that was around the time when Space Jam,
Oh yeah,
the original Space Jam movie came out,
the
and
good version.
Yeah, and then it was like Michael Jordan was like the only name I knew. I think at the time I was like, I don't think Michael Jordan, but
yeah.
So there's a default player in NBA '98 that has a certain likeness to him, but it's actually not him, because the cost of like licensing his likeness for the game was like more than the budget of the game itself. So it was like, oh well, it's this the default roster player.
Yeah.
They had the rest of the Bulls team there, I believe, and you could play the Bulls and all the other teams.
That's one of the really, really funny things about sports games in general, is watching how the licenses expire and how the game developers kind of pivot to deal with that, and you end up with like, Schmeichel Norton.
Exactly. And you're like, good. It's so on the nose. You know who it is. The stats are amazing. You're like. But it doesn't feel right though, does it? You feel like cheaped out sometimes, and you're looking at your jersey and going, "It's not the same guy, is it?"
It's funny. License hell.
Yeah, and it costs millions of dollars to like maintain those licenses these days. Like some games shut down completely now because they can't maintain the licenses. So on to the next one, which is my first pick. I don't know if you guys were big into like the Tony Hawk stuff or the snowboarding stuff when it came out. But there was a particular era, like when the GameCube, the original Xbox, and the PlayStation 2 came out, where sports games, like these types of games in particular, were really, really big. Like Tony Hawk, SSX, 1080, I think 1080 snowboarding on the Nintendo GameCube. And again, they were kind of like NBA Jam, where they weren't well-known sports or particularly popular in some countries, but they were just a lot of fun. Like they weren't realistic. They were just crazy fun. And for me, like I'd never snowboarded in my life. It's like snowboarding kind of must be dull. But I remember playing this at like just the store had a GameCube set up, and I thought I'll try it, play it. And it was ridiculous amounts of fun. So this is SSX Tricky 3 from the SSX series. And it's essentially just like a downhill snowboarder. You pull off lots of tricks. There's multiplayer, which we all loved. Couch co-op multiplayer back in the day. Really miss that kind of thing. And for like, even though it's not something like that I was into like personally at all, it was just such a thrilling game. And this one in particular, like there were 3 different parts of the mountain you could go down. There was like different day of time. Like it was for that era. Like looking at it now, it looks terrible. Like it's old. It's not HD. It's pixelated. It's chunky. But back in the day, it looked absolutely incredible. Like even seeing the mountains in the background, which were a 2D image. At the time, you don't really notice that or think that. You're just like, oh my god, like I think I'm actually on a mountain snowboarding, and this is what it's like, and that's in my living room. It was the best ever. How about you guys? Did either of you play the Tony Hawk games or any of the snowboarding games, or did you hear of them at the time?
I didn't play it myself. Oh, sorry, John.
No, sorry, Ed. No, you go ahead. You didn't.
Yeah. So I never played any of these games at the time, but definitely, you see them everywhere, right? I think I get like. Just see the ads, and they're always constantly being advertised in the store and just everywhere. So I presume lots of people must have played them. It's been quite popular. And it does look like fun. Looking at the footage now, I can see why people get into it.
I wasn't aware of this one in particular, but I did definitely play the Tony Hawk skateboarding games back in the day. But so this looks really cool, and I wasn't aware of it at the time.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because you don't see snowboarding games these days. You just don't hear of them. It's a genre that came and went. Like the Tony Hawk games got remastered, but it's just not a thing these days. People are playing like the latest FIFA usually, or Mario Strikers. I don't know. It's just like of its day was really cool. All right, on to another genre. This one is for you, Ed. So I hear you're a bit of a fan of Burnout 1, 2, and 3. Tell us about that series and why you loved it.
Just another game. Look at it. It looks like a
realistic driving simulator.
what's Olympics? The Olympic spirit, something about like bringing people together in competition.
I think it replaced World Wars or something.
Exactly,
it?
right? It's trying to like reduce conflict.
That's exactly what's going on
Friendly
here. Pretty
competition.
sure. Very friendly.
This is I think everyone should try, particularly Burnout 2 or 3 onwards. And I think this says something about me that I love playing with people in the room. You know, I've done a bit of playing with online and such, but I think there's a certain I don't know, just atmosphere that you get from just being in the same room as people that you're playing with at the same time. Which is why I think the Wii and the Switch are so popular, because you can have so many people just yelling and screaming and just seeing that reaction live and just experiencing it together in the same room is just so amazing. And Burnout 1, 2, and 3. Later Burnouts stopped this, but you could you played it split screen on whatever device, whatever platform you're playing on.
It was probably multi-platform at the time, though, wasn't it? Like it would have come across the main ones.
I mean,
PC,
I played it only on the I played on the PlayStation, but I know at least
PS2.
PS2 and PS3.
PS3, okay,
and then eventually, or even at the beginning, it would have been on Xbox as well, possibly.
Yeah.
But all games, they're basically the same thing. You're racing this course against all these other cars, but the thing about Burnout that's different is the fact that you are encouraged to smash the other players into the side, cause them to crash, and just kind of like to damage your car as well along the way, particularly by the first one, not so much, but the second and third entries in the series. Like if you like ram into another player or like scratch them on the side, as long as you don't crash, you just build up boost and charge, and that's how you get even faster, is by just constantly just getting into scrapes with other players. And it's just so much fun because you're just constantly on the edge between like crashing your car but going faster along the course to try to beat them in the race, and just causing other people to crash as well, which is half the fun. Even if you lose, just causing all the... And it's so easy to cause crashes as well. It's like it's very easy for yourself and others just to crash like multiple times within a race, and that's just normal, right? So it's like avoiding a crash is kind of hard to do. Is not quite the point of the game either. It's just pure destruction.
Do you want to kind of do it anyway? Like, do you deliberately?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I just want to crash because, I want to see how awesome
when you
it
crash,
looks.
just like that's fine. That's just just this spectacle just like unfolds on the screen. It's just amazing. And then a mode of the game which I enjoy playing is that was a single player, but where you just have this intersection or something. And the goal of this mini mode was just to cause as much destruction as you possibly can to all these innocent people. So with these ramps or something like that, you're looking at the screen, you see, all right, this bus is coming from this direction, so I hit here, that'll crash into these other cars here, which cause these other ones to smash into. And I just did that so many times, just trying to see like the millions and millions of dollars of destruction that you rack up go up. So again, just a perfect fit for the Olympics, I think. I don't see why they don't put it in.
Classic realistic racing. Yeah, I do remember when this game, like in this series, came out, and there were a lot of racing simulators, which I think when you're not in a racing games as much, they can feel a bit slow or boring. That's why games like Mario Kart are appealing. And then this, because it's like, the crashing looks awesome. It's intensely fast. It's a lot of fun with your friends. Like the amount of damage in these games on your car, you'd be like, that's so ridiculous. And then you're back on the road and you're still driving again. And it's just that arcadey experience. Johnny, are you in racing games yourself? Did you see the Burnout series or like similar series?
I haven't tried this one. I'm probably not the biggest racing game. I'm definitely no racing game purist. I think my racing game experience kind of stops at probably Mario Kart, to be fair. But this looks like fun because the focus is obviously less on the racing and more on wanton destruction, so I can see the appeal.
Yeah, no, it's a really good one. And look, if anyone wants a modern Burnout game, there is a game called Burnout Paradise. It was remastered recently and it's across all the platforms. I don't know if it has local co-op though. Do you know about that one, Ed, or not?
And that's why I stopped after 3 because I don't want to play people online.
No, exactly. It's a whole different thing.
Right? But I can see why they did, because the graphics just get so everything, and it's hard to fit all that. Maybe I guess of it, but I don't see why they couldn't. If they made a more slimmed down version like Mario Kart and just try to attempt the same thing, I guess. But
true. You could just make
if they did, I will be on it again, just like that. I'll be like, "Yep, kids, we're going to be playing destructive racing."
This is. Let me teach you something after the Olympics, kids.
This is
It's
how you
such a
should be on
good
the road.
series.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun.
No, that's cool. Hopefully they bring it back because, like, there's definitely that trend from couch co-op games for most of the big companies, aside from Nintendo, to online, and it just like Need for Speed did it too, and it just loses its magic. You're just like, oh, I just want to play this with my friend next to me, and suddenly you're just not hanging out doing that anymore. You're jumping online with internet connectivity issues. It's not the same. But look, moving on to another what we like to call very Olympic-like safe sport. Johnny, this one's for you. What's the big call out? What is LJN? It probably means a lot to you, but I'd say this screen means a lot more.
You know, I thought I'd just hold up a mirror and look, reflect what you'd be seeing on the telly if you turn on the Olympics.
Pretty much.
Maybe a few minor differences.
We're all the good sports.
Yeah. So, very traditional Olympic sport. Obviously, look, I wanted to mention WWF Royal Rumble on the Super Nintendo. And the reason for that is before the Super Nintendo, wrestling games were very, very poor. They had awful controls. Often the controls had very little correlation to what was going on the screen. But with WWF Royal Rumble, you finally got good controls. You could actually do the moves of the wrestlers. You could do all the sort of running off the ropes, climbing up the ropes and doing the aerial stuff. You could throw people out of the ring, fight outside of the ring, all the stuff that professional wrestling is famous for, all that really good sportsmanship you'd hope to see.
All the face punching.
Yeah, whacking people with folded chairs, all that stuff was finally possible in game format. And I spent many hours in the sort of early to mid 90s playing this on my Super Nintendo. I absolutely loved it. Look, it's just that it had all the mix of your different sort of wrestling personalities. It had all your good kind of heel characters, which is what you want in a wrestling game. And yeah, look, it was the Super Nintendo had the kind of graphical power to make it not look like some blurred images on your screen, which up until that point was pretty hard to pull off a good wrestling game.
Like, even when I saw this footage, I was like, oh, I can't believe The Undertaker was around at that time. And then he still had like a guest appearance last year in WrestleMania for the 40th one. I was just like, I couldn't believe it. Like, it was incredible. And I know what you mean. Like, graphically looking at it now, it's like, oh, this is a game of its time. But it's pretty sophisticated systems in place in terms of like the grappling, the wrestling, multiple characters on screen, which, chugs on the hardware sometimes, or it can be demanding of the hardware and like, living the dreams. Ed, where does this, like, are you into the wrestling games? Do you feel like this belongs in the Olympics? Do you feel like you've missed out?
I was just thinking about like the fighting games that I play, Dead or Alive and Soul Calibur. It's like, yeah, I can get into this. It's like, it's the same thing, right? Just punching, kicking, and throwing people until they're dead or whatever.
Or not. That's right. It's all fake. Yes. It's all fake.
A little bit more PG-13 than your Mortal Kombat, then, right?
No.
I mean, it's real. It's real. It's legit real, man. Like, it's legit.
It's all, yeah. It's
all 100% legit, Jono. Don't worry.
100% coming to the Olympics near you.
Santa Claus is real. This is real, right? It's the same.
Brisbane 32.
Oh, yeah.
Professional wrestling. Finally.
I hope there's no like 6-year-old kids out there who've been watching the podcast going, Mommy! Tough luck. It's a cruel world. On to the next one. All right. So this is like my next big. So we all know about like the Wii Sports games. They were everywhere and anywhere. But for me, I had an Xbox 360, which was the best-selling console in that generation of like PS3, Xbox 360, and the GameCube. I can't remember. Anyway, it was actually quite a good time for Xbox many years ago. And I don't know if you guys recognize what this is or know what this is, but when the Xbox 360 first launched, it tried to compete with Nintendo, and they brought out a system called the Kinect, which was a camera you'd put in front of your TV. The Wii was already popular, and then it brought out its own version of a sports package, which was, the Xbox Xbox Kinect Sports game. And it was simply just a package of, like you see, bowling, soccer, there was like beach volleyball, there's a couple of other like popular but really quite fun sports in there. So I picked this up, and there was a lot of controversy around this because you needed a lot of space in your living room, which a lot of people don't have, but where I was living, there was enough space. And my mates and I, we had this, like, this is shortly after my uni days, like this was a hell of a ton fun. Like we would be playing this on a regular basis, like every month, like we'd get together, we'd be like throwing javelins into like the big signboard, or just like table tennis. It played really well. So a game like table tennis, for example, there were no controllers. You would use your hand, and you would have to like take this shape, and you would just curve your hand like this to do like hitting the table tennis, and then you'd have to do the spikes and hits with the beach volleyball. It was kind of like revolutionary at the time because like the Wii Sports stuff had come out. Most people were playing that. But when it came out, it was just different. It was very novel. It was like, I don't know, it was kind of like the Wii stuff when it came out. You didn't have a controller, different way of playing video games. It looked great, had a really banging soundtrack, lots of popular songs that would play in the background. There'd be fireworks going on. It was just probably one of the best party games I've ever played personally, and one of the best Xbox 360 games. And it was like, it was peak Xbox 360 and Xbox for that console for people who are long-term Xbox gamers. But the strange thing was, as the Xbox 360 went on, the Kinect became less popular. They brought only a couple of games came out. They were very, like the actual technology was difficult to develop games for, and it just dropped off. Kind of like the Move, like the PlayStation 3 had the Move controller, and only the Wii, the Nintendo Wii, like reigned king. Johnny, did you ever see the Xbox 360 Kinect? Did you ever experience it? Do you remember it?
Oh, look, I was definitely aware of it, but obviously being a Wii tragic, I was all about the Wii during that era, and so I'd never dabbled in the Xbox space. What about you, Ed? Have you played around with the Xbox peripherals, extra stuff?
Yeah, no, more of a PlayStation / Nintendo fan myself, so I didn't really have experience. But I'm actually quite impressed by looking at this footage. So I mean, it's all promotional stuff, but still, like,
seeing it now looks pretty good comparatively.
That kind of movement and motion accurately is actually quite impressive. And I did hear that the cameras themselves could be very good. Yeah,
it worked quite well at the time. It was one of those one-off kind of packages that came out, and I think it got overshadowed by Wii Sports, which is fair enough. It was so big and growing, but it looked comparatively really good, and it played really well. But there just weren't many other games that played well. But you're both well aware of the.
I would have liked to compare the two actually, because like I enjoyed Wii Sports, but there was definitely some jankiness to some of its responses to what was going on, and people would be like hitting shots, and then they're just not sure like why and when it was. Yeah, it was not, and it's not meant to be, I suppose, like as responsive to as it could be. So we'd like to just compare like similar games with the Xbox version just to see how it would have gone. Yeah,
completely. Yeah. And Johnny, did you play the Wii Sports stuff yourself much
I loved
as well? Or?
Loved it. Yeah, got way into the Wii Sports. Never quite got around to the Wii balance board or anything like that. But definitely got stuck into the Wii, all the different Wii Sports. Wii Tennis was always great fun. It was like it was all just great party games. All those like boxing and all the different Wii sports are great. Great fun for very very much pick up and play. It's one of those games that we've talked about on the show before, games that you can hand to someone who's never played a video game before in their life, and they'll have a great time with it.
Absolutely. Like, it was revolutionary. I remember so many people who were not gamers and their partners coming out and going, "What is this? This is fun." You just pick up the Wiimote, as it was called or whatever, literally hit it around. And I remember, like you're saying, Ed, like it didn't always have the most accurate mechanics. Like I remember the tennis was good once you got a grasp of it. Like it would take a while to be like, all right, I'm across the delay, like the input delay. I'm across the kind of angles it's expecting me to go. And there'd be a couple of cheap serves and cheap hits, and you're like, oh, it doesn't seem fair. But the greater package was like, this is a really like immersive experience. You're playing with someone next to you. It was pretty affordable at the time, and it was just everywhere. It was advertised everywhere, and it was kind of like a refreshing take, a lot more sports-like compared to some of the other stuff we've discussed today. But we are on to Ed's final one for the show today. So this is actually footage of Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, the latest remaster. But Ed's aware of a game that I wasn't aware of, which is from 1998, where Need for Speed 3 was also called Hot Pursuit, before there was a Hot Pursuit and then a Hot Pursuit remaster. So, Ed, tell us about that.
Yeah, so the game I played was definitely not as good as this.
Doesn't look as good as this?
No.
I looked at the footage and I was like, oh my God.
It was like 25, 27 years ago, last century. It's a bit...
It was so framey too. I was looking at the footage and it was going, and I was like, oh my God.
You can see the parentage, right?
Yeah. There's like three colors in there or something.
Removed.
Yeah. Must have been on the original PlayStation or PlayStation 2, perhaps.
I don't
PC?
know. Again, like with NBA, so this is another game that I played on the PC with my sister.
I see.
Split screen again. So my understanding, because I didn't play any of the previous Need for Speed games, my understanding is that they were mostly focused on racing, and then I think in the second one they introduced like a police escaping the police element to it. But in Hot Pursuit, so you have your normal racing. Non-destructive racing parts of the game, and then you had the bits where you had a mode where you could play as the racers trying to escape the police, and they would set like roadblocks, right? So they'd have like cars trying to block off the course, and they had like a strip of spikes on the road that if your tires went across it, you're basically dead. I think it was like as long as they brought you to a stop, I think that was the case. As long as they brought you to a stop or near stop, then you'd be arrested and you're out of the game. So but even with the roadblocks, there's like often like gaps in the roadblock. You could try to like weave your way through the cars and just keep racing on that way. And then you could play as a police as well. And I think that was the first game where I encountered the word Lamborghini. And I got so obsessed with that word. Even now, today, every time I see him, oh, it's a Lambo. I get so excited. This feeling from like 27 years ago, I'm like, I'll never touch a car like that. But just because you could play like a police Lamborghini.
A police Lamborghini? That's awesome. I think you'd be like chasing someone who's flogged one. That's awesome.
I know. And just like being able to chase players, racers on as the police as well. That was a lot of fun. And just trying to set up roadblocks, and just like when you get someone across the strip and they just slow to a stop and you're like, I got you. Yeah, it was good fun.
Super cool. Yeah, I mean, like the Need for Speed series these days, it's a dime a dozen. Like there's a lot out there. But in terms of like that spirit and the experience you're talking about that was made into a modern remaster, that's available on all the current consoles and PC, where you can play as the cops or escaping the cops. So it's not going to be the same as 3, but for anyone out there, people in Perth and Beyond, it's probably worth checking out. All right, we are actually on to our very last one, which I don't know if Ed knows this one. Johnny and I know this one. I'm going to let Johnny talk about it because this is just going to rip at the heartstrings. Johnny, Excite Bike. It's Excite Bike. How exciting is this?
Excite Bike is great. And like even just the main sort of mode of Excite Bike is just so much fun. But the real charm of Excite Bike is where you get into the make your own course mode, and then you can just make these ridiculous courses to trip up your mates. So like jump here and like you just have jump after jump after jump, and all the different hazards, and getting into a round of who can make the most ridiculous Excite Bike course is just pure joy.
No, it was cool. Like, so this is on the Nintendo Entertainment System, and it's weird because it's like motorbike racing wasn't a big thing, but I would say like a lot of people who had a Nintendo back in the day would remember this. And it looking at it now, and if you've never seen it before, it looks super basic and that, but it's a lot of fun. Like the moment-to-moment gameplay is very addictive. And there are modes where you can race against other people, and there's multiplayer as well. And then, like what Johnny was saying, you could make courses, which for a Nintendo game, this is like the NES, which had how many colors can we see on screen? Like 5 or 6 different shades of a color. How like they pulled that off is incredible. And then there's a couple of little touches like you see from the footage where you've got a cameraman moving back and forth. I don't think there were a lot of tracks, Johnny. I think you could play through the whole game pretty quickly, and the hazards are pretty simple. Is that right?
Yeah, look, it was a very early NES game, so it was very much early in the generation, and for its time, it had a lot of kind of detail packed into it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was kind of like many games of the era at the NES time, like Metroid, like Mario. They were revolutionary. It was just like what they could achieve for what they were seeking to do. Like this does give you that dirt bike experience of jumping over things and just even slowing down on the gravel. Excite Bike is really cool. All right, I did say we're out of games, but I've got one more. Johnny didn't know about this one, but I had to put it out there. Talked about the sequel last episode. This is Punch Out for the NES. We cannot bring this one up. This is the most Olympic of them all. It's it's about beating up the other person, competitive fighting. Ed, have you ever played the Punch-Out games? Have you ever seen these before? Do you know what you're looking at? Is it all a bit too weird? Mario and bouncing pecs. What's going on here?
Oh, that's Mario too. Okay. No, I have not played this game. I didn't. Yeah.
I'll tell you what it is.
But I think so I love it though. Like you're looking at these games, and I think this is all history here, right?
Yeah.
This is
the most memorable games, man.
I think, it's just fascinating, watching and seeing all these things. I remember playing some of these games, some of these I haven't, but like I don't know. I think it would just be great for like people born this side of the 21st century actually just to go back and look at the games, like the first games that came out like 40, 50 years ago.
Yeah.
And things like, you can see some of the influences today, right? And even if you can't see that, it's just fascinating. It's just so amazing. Like they see that people thought and looked at this and they had so much fun playing these games, and you still have lots of fun playing these games.
Oh, absolutely.
You don't need like $100 million budget to have fun in games.
You're exactly right. Like this is like, as you can see, it's pretty simplistic. Like it's like left and right, upper and lower punches, blocks. The kind of variety you would have seen in this game at the time was in the actual opponents that you face. So the one we're seeing is Super Macho Man. Looks totally ridiculous. They all come across that way until you get to like Mike Tyson. They've all got their own little gimmick. But I think when I look at this game and I think about how the developers created it, it's really smart. It's really fantastic. Like your character, Little Mac, is tiny. Like you feel like you're up against this colossus of an opponent, and it's intimidating, and it gets your blood pumping, and you're pressing the buttons quickly to survive and get the patterns. Even the crowd in the background, just like they're all the same. They're all the same color, but it gives you that feeling like there is this crowd, and your eyes are focused on the gameplay. Like the artistic design of it is very simple but very clever. And for someone, like you're saying, Ed, like someone who would like to just try an old game, we've talked a lot about old memorable games, but this is a game you could just play on. I don't know if it's on the Nintendo Switch Online offerings.
Sure,
Johnny?
Is. Yeah,
it
yeah.
is?
I think
awesome.
original Punch Out and I think Super Punch Out are both on the online service, so definitely worth playing. Great pick to finish our sports gaming special, and just got to call out how great is it. Little Mac comes across all these cultural stereotypes and punches the hell out of them. I love it.
It's so inappropriate, this game. Like, Johnny is not wrong. Who's the Jamaican guy who's like, I don't know. It was just like, what is... And then there's a guy from Japan. And even their names are just so
Piston
on the
Honda.
Know. Yeah,
Piston Honda.
God, Piston. Yeah, it's terrible. It's so bad. Like, it's so bad. But, yeah, it's of that time. Like, it is absolutely of that time. But people of Perth and
You're gonna
Beyond,
miss it though, because you can't
Yeah.
make and sell games like that
No,
nowadays.
you can't.
Really?
Yeah,
It was another time.
Yeah,
those were fun days. They were lovely days. I mean, people of Perth and Beyond, if you've been watching the Olympics, just stop. Why bother? We've given you about 10 games to go back and play, appropriate and inappropriate real-life racing sims like Burnout to the punching games. So, but that's all we have time for today. Any final thoughts, Johnny?
No, I just had a great time. It was great to have Ed back on the show and talk through some of our favourite sports games. It was awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, it's been amazing having you back, man.
thank you for having me here. So glad to be back. Just talking games anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, awesome. Well, maybe in a couple of years' time we'll do it. No, we'll bring you back before that, I'm sure. People of Perth and Beyond, go and watch the Olympics. Go and play some sports teams games if you haven't. But that's all from the Perth Gaming crew with today's show. That is us. Over and out. Catch you later.